Hello, everyone who's listening. Hope you've all had a nice few weeks. Now the weather's getting a bit warmer. It's nice to get out and about in the sunshine. Next week sees the start of Season 4 of In the Roud, and we'll be looking at the songs labelled Roud 31 to 40. I've already recorded some bits for that. Can't wait for you to hear it. It's going to be fantastic. Before that, though, I thought we'd have a bonus episode to start us off, a pre-season bonus episode. If you remember, back at the end of Season 1, Karl Sinfield came on for a bonus episode and we discussed the release of Sing Yonder Volume 8. Sing Yonder is the book series that Karl Sinfield does, going through the Roud Index in order, looking at the songs. This podcast was very much formed out of the idea for the books. So back then we did an episode on the release of Volume 8, and very soon Karl will be releasing Volume 9 of Sing Yonder. That book will look at the songs labelled Rouds 81 to 90. And so for today's bonus episode, I'm joined by Karl Sinfield again, and we do a whistle-stop tour, although it takes an hour, a whistle-stop tour of all the songs in the upcoming Volume 9 of Sing Yonder. So here we go. Sit back, relax, and enjoy my chat with Karl Sinfield. Well, hello, Karl.
Hello.
Hello. How are you? How's things?
Yeah, not too bad. Busy. Keeping busy on my Sing Yonder fronts.
Indeed. We will come to that shortly, I presume. Yes, busy stuff, and I've seen you occasionally in the flesh for some Peak District walks.
Very nice, yeah.
Good fun. People don't know I've got a book by the AA, not the Alcoholics Anonymous, the other one, the car one, the roadways one. 50 walks in the Peak District, which are listed from like the northernmost to southernmost, and I'm going through them from shortest to longest. And you and I and your family and a friend of ours did a walk around Holmfirth a couple of weeks
ago.
Very nice.
Which was got
lovely.
Our steps in that day. Yeah, very good.
So we did 4.5 mile walk. We got the 12,000 steps in.
Yeah.
I'll be fit in no time, or in a few years. So it's good to see you on there in the flesh as well as occasional Zooms and just by email and texting.
Yeah, no, it's good to get out. Especially while the weather's good. But yeah.
Yes, the weather's quite cold today. We're recording this on the 15th of May, and it's very cold today. And I was out playing tennis this morning, and I wore t-shirt and shorts, and it was quite cold.
Yeah,
which was not pleasant. Still, never mind. So this is a bonus episode of In the Roud. Season 4 begins next week, and in the past I've done bonus episodes to end a season, but because of what we're talking about now and with this one, it made sense to have a pre-season 4 episode, a bonus episode as a prelude to season 4. And all about the next volume of Sing Yonder. But there's been other Sing Yonder stuff recently, hasn't there? There's been a new CD.
That's right, yes, Sing Yonder 2, imaginatively titled, follow-up to Sing Yonder 1, the album I did a couple of years ago.
Oh, so these are people on the folk scene recording their own versions of these songs?
Yeah, not necessarily even in the folk scene. In this one, I've got my friends who are a Balkan ska band who did a version, which is amazing. You should probably declare your interest in this latest album now, Matt.
Yes, I have a vested interest in this because I am track 1 on Sing Yonder 2.
Very, very nice it is too.
If anyone cares, that was the song. It was on the podcast. It was Season 2, Episode 1, The Baffled Night, or Blow the Windy Morning, Clear Away the Morning Dew. We had Steve Roud on the history and Vic Gammon on the singer side rather than the history side for that one. And so I knocked up a quick concertina accompanied version of the Sam Lana version of Blow the Windy Morning.
Absolutely excellent. Yes, no, you need to, obviously it's compulsory to listen to all of the podcasts before listening to the album, so you're fully prepared for the listening experience. But yeah, no, it's been amazing. The response has been great. I mean, I sort of started doing the albums as just a way to give people something other to listen to than my sort of slightly amateurish demos that I put on the Sing Yonder website to give people a guide of how to, a rough guide of how to play the song. I thought, well, wouldn't it be nice to have actual proper singers doing it, musicians?
Yeah.
And I thought it would just sort of be an extension of that, but it's sort of become something else, really. Sort of evolved. It's only been one iteration of evolution, but it has kind of, the second one has evolved into like this mad, it's really varied, diverse range of like how all the different ways you can do folk music, in one album. It's sort of like, I don't know if you remember, I've got a couple of them. Those old Topic sampler albums you could get where it would be whoever's on the folk scene on Topic Records.
Oh, yes.
Put out an album every now and again that was just like the latest song. I mean, they're very different to these, but this, it's incredible to have all these amazing artists and people. And now it's less of, it's like it's based on the version in the book. Quite a few of these versions, people have gone very much their own way with it. And it's just
as did I.
It's pretty. I mean, it's pretty similar. I think your version to the one in the book.
But I went to the Sam Larner recording rather than slavishly looking at the words in your book. So.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't ever insist when I ask people to do it. I would never insist that they do the version in the book. You've got to do what feels right for you. So whatever works. And it's just ended up like this mad. And the sort of sequence of the tracks as well is that each track is very different to the next.
Yeah.
So it's a real incredible range of stuff. Yeah, very very happy with it, and it seems to be getting some good feedback. People responding to it. It's getting some good plays on various podcasts, and I've got a few pieces coming out in the printed press soon.
Well, you'll just start prepping Sing Yonder 3.
Yeah. I think I will do a Sing Yonder 3. I think reaction's been good enough. I mean, as long as people keep buying it, I'll keep making them. I don't lose too much money on it.
Sure. And that'll be the songs that I've only just covered in the last season of the podcast, season 3.
Indeed. Yeah. So there's some interesting ones there. I've got a few ideas of who to ask, but I've still got a bit more work to do on Sing Yonder 2. Just getting it fully over the line.
Sure. Yeah.
Try and get a few more sales in. I just split the proceeds evenly between the contributors, so I want to try and get them as much as I can. So,
I look forward to that.
Yes. Don't get too excited. Don't be booking any Caribbean holidays or anything. It's not. It's going to be a fairly token amount. I'd say, but those are the economics of the folk industry.
What do you mean? I've already ordered that bottle of champagne.
Well, as long as it's from the bottom shelf of Sainsbury's, I think it'll probably just about be okay.
Quite possibly.
Yeah. But yes, no.
So that's available. Really that's available to buy, isn't it, on CD?
That's on CD, on download. Yeah, Bandcamp as usual, same as everything else I make. The same as the tea towels, same as the stickers. It's all there on Bandcamp for you. Yeah. Like I say, if people keep buying.
Isn't that the same as the? Is that the same as the elusive In the Roud merchandise as well?
Oh yes, there is I forgot about that. Yeah, there's you can buy T-shirts as well from it's linked on the website. Yes, various T-shirts and other wearables.
That's all right. I've been useless at advertising the merchandise.
Yeah, we're getting a few sales. There are people out there walking around in the round hoodies. You'll be glad to know.
Wow, blimey. Okay, well. Yeah. I hope I never meet them. No, I do. If you're listening, I hope I meet you. I'm sure you're lovely.
Yes.
It should be amusing to spot you in a crowd wearing an In the Roud hoodie. Yeah, especially because I've forgotten what they look like. The hoodie, not the person. And so I'll look at it and go, is that something to do with me? I have no idea.
Yes.
Oh, well, it'll be fun.
Absolutely. They're out there, yeah. Doing your advertising for you.
I haven't even got them yet. I must have a look at that.
Well, there you go. When's your birthday? You never know. You might get a surprise.
November.
Oh, crikey. Okay.
November the 4th. Remember the 4th of November.
Well, yeah. There you go. Yes, so you can support the whole Sing Yonder and In the Roud initiative by going to the Sing Yonder merch store. Find all your
That's right.
all your things there as well. Yeah.
Excellent. And so, just under a year ago, when I finished season 1 of the podcast, Rouds 1 to 10, that went from beginning of May to the middle of July, we finished that season with a bonus episode where that was the interview with you, where we discussed the upcoming release of Sing Yonder Book Volume 8. And here we are, almost a year later, with Book Volume 9.
Don't remind me it's taken so long. I feel like I've been slacking, but I have been,
You've been very busy, haven't you?
I have. It's full on. Like, suddenly accidentally starting a record label was kind of not in the plan, really.
Oh, yeah.
But it's happening.
Indeed.
But just trying to fit it in around other commitments can be difficult. I haven't quite managed to reach the heady heights of the sort of 6 to 7 volumes a year I was doing at the beginning. It's more like sort of 2 to. I mean, I'd like to do 2 to 3 a year, but 1 a year, I do need to up my output a bit. But I don't want to rush it. I kind of enjoy doing the research and
you want to give each song its due, don't you?
Yeah. I could churn them out quickly, but I think that's not the point really. I want to provide something a bit different and interesting, and to do that, you do have to, fiddle around in the archives, actually finding the interesting nuggets.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And finding rare versions sometimes takes. I've got the Substack where I sort of put all my research on and my findings. That's taking a bit longer, and I'm fine. And now I want to do the thing that I do for a lot of the episodes where I find a rare version that's just on an album somewhere, not available online on YouTube or Spotify or anything like that, but it's just on some deleted obscure folk album. So then you have to go and you have to order it from Discogs. You have to wait. So that's a week. You've already used up a week waiting for that process to happen. So it's taking a lot longer than when I was just writing the book, and I could actually do 1 or 2 a day of these entries. So now it's taking 2 to 3 weeks to do 1 entry, because I'm doing a lot more. See, I'm doing the Substack and all that sort of stuff as well. So
indeed, yes.
So people are getting more, but it's just less physical books.
Quite so. Yeah. So Volume 9 covers Rouds 81 to 90 of the Roud Index, which the Roud Index currently stands at about 47,479.
Yep.
Approximately. And so this is, you're not even a 10th of the way there or 100th of the way there.
No,
I mean, no. I worked out that I've covered
1/500th.
I worked out that I've covered, haven't even managed to cover 0.001% yet or something. So fun times.
Yes, but we're not trying to do the whole thing, Matt. We're just
it's not about the end. It's about the journey. It's about the journey.
Yes.
And the songs we meet upon the way.
Indeed, and we meet some great ones. Yeah.
And so 81 to 90. Just so we're going to go in the next sort of half hour, 40 minutes. We're going to go through the book and the songs that are covered in the book, and this will also then be a teaser for season 9 of the podcast, which will be because we got season 4 coming this summer. Season 9 will be in the February, March, April time of 2027, so just under 2 years' time.
Yeah, hopefully they'll have forgotten about this by then.
That's right. But I've got 4 people booked in already for season 9. Amazing. Just because we looked ahead and someone on Sing History said, Vic Gammon said, I have to do that one. I want to do that one. Brian Peters said, I want to do that one. So we just, I'll book you in for it. It's fine. So
get booked in, yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, so we'll come to the songs.
I'll find out all the things I got wrong in the book, and that'll be good.
Yeah, well, you've got to do that yet for number 8, which will come out in the 3 months earlier than that for volume 8 and something.
Yeah.
But so let's go through them. We've got our Bumblebee on the cover of this one.
Yes. That's referenced in Young Logie, the first track, which is there's a few of these in this book. Actually, it's got quite a bit of a theme of border reavers escaping from prison. It's sort of the theme, I would say. It's not entirely. Obviously, there are exceptions to the theme, but it does seem to pop up quite a lot. There's a few prison escape ballads. I don't know if that's a category they use in academia, but
no, not yet. I think does Lord Bateman count as a prison escape
Yeah, possibly. I
He's
think
just let free, isn't he?
Yeah, if there's he's not. He doesn't really escape. These are very much definitely
This is
broken out of prison.
Someone needs to write a folk
fashion.
Yeah, someone needs to write a folk song, in quotes. Write a song adaptation of The Count of Monte Cristo, and then to add to the prison escape oeuvre.
Yes, indeed. So yeah, young Logie's a prison escape.
So Round 81, young Logie.
Yes.
Also called the Laird of Logie, the gallant Laird of young Logie.
Yeah.
And
so this is basically a fairly simple story about this main character, the Laird of Logie, who's broken out of prison with the help of his sweetheart. And then once he's broken out, they reunite and they get married. It's quite a romantic prison, in this sort of oeuvre of prison break songs. It's probably the most romantic one.
Right.
And it's one of those also ballads that starts with him in prison. So normally, apart from one exception in the collected versions, we don't know why he's in prison. One version said that his crime was stealing a kiss.
Oh.
Yeah, I know, pretty bad. Obviously, bang them all up. But it turns out that this Laird of Logie was a real person from history. His name was John Wemyss. He was imprisoned. He was helped to escape by one of the Queen's servants, a woman called Margaret Vinstar, who's a Danish noblewoman.
Lady Margaret, and there's so many Lady Margarets in these.
Yeah, another Lady Margaret, I'm afraid.
I mean, there's one coming up in season 4. We've got the song "Proud Lady Margaret."
Indeed, it's quite confusing. But yes, the Margaret Vinstar did break him out of prison, and they did reunite, and they did get married. Now, so in terms of historical ballads, it's probably a solid 8 out of 10 in terms of accuracy. However, the crime that John Wemyss committed was a little bit more serious than kissing somebody. He was conspired to depose James VI of Scotland.
Oh,
He was not a very popular King of Scotland because he was quite involved in trying to get political union between England and Scotland and create peace and things like that, which a lot of the Scottish nationalist chaps were not very happy with, obviously. So there was a bit of a concerted effort to get rid of him, and in fact there was a kidnap planned. This guy, Lord High Admiral Francis Stewart, planned to kidnap him, and this John Wemyss character was involved in that kidnap, and he was imprisoned and he did escape, as I said. So the rest of the ballad is pretty much true, as a slightly depressing coda afterwards, in that they're only together for 3 years, I think, and they escaped to the Netherlands, but then John Wemyss just couldn't help himself. He helped the Spanish destroy a gunpowder tower in the Netherlands and ended up being executed in Holland.
Blimey.
Yeah, just an incorrigible rogue, like many of these border reaver types were. Yes, that's pretty much the story. It's pretty simple. It's one of the least complicated prison escape ballads. There's not too much toing and froing, but yeah, it's a good one. It was very rarely performed these days. I mean, no source versions that I could find.
No.
It has probably 3 recordings since the revival era. One of which, I mean, some good ones though. They're all good. The main one was Bandogs, of course. The folk supergroup of Pete and Chris Coe, Nick Jones, and Tony Rose did their album in 1978.
That's right, it's on there. Yes, that comes up quite a lot whenever I talk to George Sansom, because it's one of his favourite albums.
Yeah, it's an amazing album. Yeah. So they just made one album, didn't they, and did one tour, and then just the band split to follow their solo careers.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
But yeah, some great stuff on there. But yeah, really good version of this song. Ewan MacColl did it like a very Scottish unaccompanied version. He went full Scots,
as he was known to do.
Yes. And then Catherine Campbell did it in the early 2000s. She was a folk scholar and singer, and she did an album of songs of Amelia and Jane Harris, who was the 19th century sisters who learned a load of songs from their sister, and they were collected in the sort of mid 19th century. But they covered quite a lot of unusual Scottish songs that aren't covered anywhere else, and Catherine Campbell made this great album.
Indeed, yes. I look forward to hearing that at some point.
Yeah.
Highly
recommended.
Great. But yeah, not that much recorded though.
No.
Young Logie though. I'll have to do something clever with that episode to try and get someone to sing it.
Yeah.
On the episode on the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, they're all good songs in this. I mean, I enjoyed learning to sing all of them. There were none that were real sort of struggle. So I think they're all pretty worthwhile to sing. Right. I mean, the one I struggled with most is actually the next one. If we want to go on to Route 82. I was
about to come on to Route 82. Yeah. Jock o' the Side.
Yeah, this is. I mean, if the last one was, sort of a 9 out of 10 on the scale of Scottish, this one is like 12 out of 10. It's it's a very kind of combative, anti-English, very kind of fighty. I mean, the English are referred to as dogs at one point. It's really it's really out there in that kind of very Scottish nationalist oeuvre. Again, hardly ever recorded. Again, it looks like it was a true story. We don't really know anything about the history of it. There's a guy called John Armstrong of Mangerton.
Oh, not to be confused with John Armstrong from Rouds 76.
Correct. Yeah, they may have probably been in the same clan, but just a different John Armstrong in the same clan. But yeah, again, it looks like we don't know. It's literally no history of any of these events, but the story is another successful prison escape. It was helped, interestingly, by an exiled Englishman called Hobby Noble, who is the subject of another child ballad.
Of course.
Called Hobby Noble, which is Route 4014.
I don't think either of us will get to that.
No.
Unless some mad person sings it and wants to do it on the Patreon.
Yeah. Again, I think it's quite rare one, isn't it? So it seems unlikely. But again,
well, maybe I have a vague idea that in a few years, once I've covered, by going through the Roud Index, I'll have covered quite a lot of the child ballads.
Yes.
At some point, I might just do a couple of child ballad mini-seasons and just try and finish off the child ballads.
Child ballad spotlight, yeah. No, good idea.
Although Child seemed to really like this one, Jock o' the Side, didn't he? He said, you in your notes here, it says commending it as the best in the world.
Yes, no, he loved it, yeah, which is an unusual choice, because, as I say, it's not, I didn't find it overly, it's another prison break ballad, it's not overly different to the previous one, really, or another prison break ballad coming next. But no, Jock o' the Side was barely recorded. Ewan MacColl did it. Again, it's worth listening to Ewan MacColl's version for just how incredibly full on he really goes for it. This is he's really aggressive in his singing style of that one. And it's quite a punchy little tune. But it did travel to America, this one, presumably with the Scottish diaspora, and quite a lot of these sort of border ballads I think were quite popular because they're obviously a lot of kind of bravery, and that's probably something that people that went over there identified with. That sort of daring spirited stuff that did seem to travel quite well. So it was collected in Pennsylvania by Tristram Coffey. And I did find one American singer who made an album of border ballads called Andrew Calhoun. He made an album of Scottish border ballads in 2017.
Oh, right. Great.
So it's on there, but those were the only two places I could find it, really. It's pretty rare.
And the version you use, the setting in the book you've got, is it Get Rid of It, or are they there? All the fa-da diddle, la da-dow dang diddle stuff?
Yeah. No, there's a bit of that. Yeah.
So sometimes you just...
Diddle, riddle, yeah.
Yes, there's always a debate about whether we should sing this stuff, whether we shouldn't, and I think I used to really not like singing that sort of stuff, and over the years I've thought, I should just commit, shouldn't I, to actually do them and then commit to it.
it's all in play. I mean, why not? I mean, yeah. I mean, I have no problem with it.
Apart from
again, with these very complicated, especially a lot of these Scottish narrative ballads that are in the Child Index, I have to say, from a communal singing perspective, they're not great. There's not a lot of opportunity for joining in.
No.
So if we can throw in a Fardol riddle that somebody can join in with, I say, bring it on.
That's fine. I'll commit to any of them, apart from one that I keep mentioning. Not on the podcast so much, but just to people in general. When we were looking at in season 2, looking at the Scarborough Fair episode, the Elfin Night, I was going through the versions in Bronson, and I found a version where it was, how did it go? I did learn that first verse just so I could demonstrate to people. I want you to get me a cambric shirt, fumma-lumma-link, supperloo my knee, without needlework or needlework, ready-o, teddy-o, toddle-bod beddy-o, fumma-lumma-link, supperloo my knee. But ready-o, teddy-o, toddle-bod beddy-o is stunning, is stellar work, it's stunning.
Yeah.
And I would never want to sing that in public anywhere.
I'm surprised it never caught on. Really.
Are you?
Yeah.
I don't believe you. Ready-o, teddy-o, toddle-bod beddy-o.
But again, it's a bit of fun,
it just reminds me of Little Richard singing Ready Teddy, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think he consulted Francis James Child when he was trying to write songs for his next pop hit.
No. I'm all. Like I say, in summary, I'm all for it. Bring it on. I say, I'll join in with somebody singing it in a folk club. Yeah.
More Prison Escape, round 83. Bold Dicky.
Yeah, this one's a bit more complicated. There's quite a lot going on with this one in terms of its history. So again, a bit like the previous one, there's no historical record of Johnny Hall being broken out of prison by Archie Caulfield. But whether that, I mean, it could be that it did happen and just wasn't recorded in history, because there's loads of this stuff going on, obviously. But or whether it's just some names being changed for narrative reasons or whatever, the way these things change sort of seemingly arbitrarily. But and it seemed sort of fairly popular in Scotland. It's collected quite a few times, and then it sort of popped up in America in the 17th century, and in 1730 it was almost completely changed apart from the words, and then the words of the story is pretty much the same. And a lot of the verses match up, but the names were changed to match up to tell the tale of this guy John Webb, who was freed from prison by someone called Billy. Oh. No, he wasn't free. He was imprisoned, but he was released without charge. But the story was changed that there's this incredible daring prison break. So it's one of those things, I think, where they take some current event and make it a bit more dramatic by merging it with a more dramatic ballad, which seems to be something that went on.
Okay, sure. This is the first one in this volume of the book that I'd heard of before.
Okay, yes, of course, yeah. Well, then after, what happened is that then in the 19th century in Britain, it seemed to come back into fashion because there was a broadside printing in the early 19th century under the title of Bold Prisoner, and this seems to have been quite a popular broadside because it was copied in a lot of different versions,
right?
And with slightly different titles, Bold Archer being one of the titles in the south of England.
Yes, and there is a source recording, a field recording of Harry Cox, the Norfolk singer, singing Bold Archer.
Yeah.
And consequently, the one I was most familiar with is that, but not Harry Cox recording. John Kirkpatrick sang it in the band Brass Monkey.
That's right.
And that's the one I'm really familiar with.
Yes, indeed.
And they paired it with the Morris tune called Dearest Dickie.
I was going to say, that's
really
right,
nice.
Yes. And it's a very recognisable Morris tune, isn't it? Yeah, so it is. Yeah. It's got that lovely Morris bounce to it with the brass band and everything. Yeah, no, great.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Tony Rose did it as well on the banks of Green Willow.
That's right. Yeah,
that's a good.
I'm hoping I will be able to get John Kirkpatrick for the singing guest for that episode, because that'll be really good. Yeah,
awesome. Yeah. There's a nice sort of rare version that I found. I had to go off to Discogs and buy buy an album for this one. It's there's a book called The English Folk Singer.
Oh,
Published
I've
in
got
the
a I've got a copy of the Scottish folk singer.
Okay. It's like a 1970s thing. It was just a book of folk songs with
Yeah, I
simple,
think it must be a series thing because I've got the Scottish folk singer. Yeah,
it was on there, and they made an accompanying album where they sang some of the songs. I mean, I don't know where they got the idea to do a songbook and then put an album out with it. I think they may have been time travellers.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's right.
Stole my idea, but yes, that's a lovely version. I don't know anything about Sam Richards and Tish Stubbs.
No idea.
If they're still around, they did a nice version of it.
Excellent.
But it's quite interesting. It's one of those ones that has got very diverse examples. Very diverse versions of the song. Like the Billy Broke Locks, which is the most popular American ballad, which is almost like a bluegrass kind of thing. Bears no relation to Bold Archer or the couple of very sort of rare versions of the Archie Caulfield, the very original Scottish ballad. Right. So it's one of those ones that's really diversified. But yeah, very interesting. And say Bold Archer's a great tune.
Okay, great. Moving on, Round 84. I have not heard of this one. Huey Graham.
Yeah, interesting. It was pretty popular in the Rival. I found quite a few versions knocking about, but it's another border ballad basically. This is one of the genre of ballads, which is the horse theft ballad, of which there's a couple in this volume.
Oh, yep.
So this is Huey Graham is executed for stealing the bishop's horse. It's basically the short story. It's presented in the way of the wife pleading for clemency for her beloved Huey.
Oh,
because he never did it, and that'll pop up later.
It will, yes, indeed,
in the podcast. Yes. Again, no historical evidence for a Huey Graham. Particularly, there was a huge Graham clan at that time, and around 400 of them were reported to the Bishop of Carlisle for various crimes. But we don't know if Hugh was one of them. Not all their names were listed. There's a big list of criminals that was made at the time, but we don't know. It could have been a Huey Graham that stole the bishop's horse. Quite likely.
Sure.
There's lots of that sort of stuff going on. But it turned out to be quite a popular ballad. It seemed to be popular at the time. Loads of revival versions. June Tabor, Ewan MacColl. There's a brilliant version. If you go on YouTube and look up, there's a Scottish piper called Jimmy McRae. Check out his version.
Okay.
It is very unusual. He's a bagpiper, but he kind of does a kind of a rock. It's like a rock rap version of Huey Graham, with like an incredible guitar solo and bagpipe solo in the same song.
Wow. Okay.
And the whole video is amazing. It looks like it'd been done by the Carlisle Tourist Board in the early 1980s, because it's just like it's Jimmy going around various spots in Carlisle and popping up and singing a bit of the song with Carlisle Castle in the background, or the shopping centre, or it's extraordinary.
Okay, it's one of those,
yeah, no, that's well worth the watch.
Great.
Another version I loved is a Czech version by a band called Assonance, where they translated the whole thing into Czech.
Wow. Okay. Right.
And also Tony Capstick, who was a big figure in light entertainment and folk in the 1970s. I think you spoke to Helen Lindley a bit about this, and so did I on my Substack, about how when I grew up in the 1970s, how the folk music was so much more mainstream than it was now. Traditional folk music even was.
Steel Ice Band were on Crackerjack,
Indeed, yeah, it was very much part of the light entertainment industry. The folk musician, the sort of slightly funny folk musician, which is what Tony Capstick was in that sort of Mike Harding mould.
Yeah, exactly. Still, folk rock and folk were given more a mainstream sort of outlet. because obviously Span were, as I said, were on Krakatoa. They were also on Jim Will Fix It
Right.
then as well.
Okay.
They
Let's
someone
gloss over that one.
someone wrote in asking to if they could have a medieval banquet with Steeleye Span, and it was all
Wow.
set up for them. So Carthy and Manny
Amazing.
Prine and everything sitting there having a medieval banquet.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah,
But
so well,
yeah.
Tony Capsick had this album Punch and Judy Man, which was
Oh
his
yeah, I've
sort of,
heard of that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. He does Huey Graham on there. On a side note, he did a single, a double A-sided single. One of the tracks was called Capstick Comes Home, which was like it is a recitation in the style of, I don't know if you remember, if you're too young, but the Hovis advert that was huge in like the 1980s, which was like a kind of very cutesy, like brass band music with somebody talking about Hovis bread basically, and it's a very kind of folksy, homely thing of the time. It was like one of those. If it would have been viral if we'd have had viral things in the early 80s. Anyway, he did that, and on the B side, or the other A side, was the version of the Sheffield Grinder. And you know what? That got into the charts at number 3, and this is the pop charts.
Wow!
Like, imagine, and yeah. So there you go, and I think the Roud number for the Sheffield Grinder is 23,140.
Oh.
So is that the highest chart entry for a song with a Roud number? I know there may be,
or the highest Roud number to get a chart entry as well.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. There you go.
Well, so who'd have thought? Who'd have thunk?
There we are, Tony Capstick. But yeah, it's all available on YouTube. Check
Excellent.
it out.
Moving on, then we've got Roud 85, the Lochmaben Harper.
Okay,
a lot of people know this from Carthy and Swarbrick on the album Life and Limb. Yes. And also Nick Jones, the Blind Harper. This is
Blind Harper, yeah, the common version is Blind Harper. The Lochmaben Harper, Martin Carthy's is a bit of an outlier because he used a different tune to everybody else. I think he put it to the tune of a Scottish air, so it sounds very different to all the others, even though it's the same story. But it's a lovely story. Again, horse theft. This time the protagonist gets away with it in a kind of quite a beautiful way. You know, it's a very cunning ruse this Blind Harper uses to steal the king's horse, involving, tying the king's horse to his tail and then bewitching everybody with his harp, and then the king's horse, the harpist's horse, leads the king's horse back to its foal that he's left at home. It's a very convoluted plan that works beautifully. The harpist gets away with it to the point that not only does he steal the king's horse, but the king feels bad thinking that the harpist's horse has also been stolen. So not only does he pay the harpist for the gig that he plays, but he pays the harpist for the horse that he's lost as well, so that he gets paid twice.
Wow.
So, I mean, imagine that folk musician getting paid double the odds. It just seems amazing, eh?
Yeah, indeed.
But yeah, it's a lovely little song, actually. It's one of these sort of magical harp songs that pop up.
Based on a true story, this one, is it?
Possibly. I don't know. Who can say? Nothing in history, but we don't know. Not everything was recorded. But no, it sounds like one of those sort of these mythological kind of supernatural kind of style things, a bit like Tam Lin, where it's there's lots of magical harp, ancient mythology going on. Like the Greek myth of Orpheus it involves a magical harp, and the harp of Dagda in Irish mythology, and Harpanskraft to the sort of ancient medieval Scandinavian ballad. So the magical harp was definitely a thing that I imagine sort of ballad writers at the time would think, yeah, let's do a Scottish version of this magical harp thing. It seems popular.
Yeah.
But there's and you pointed out some popular versions. Yeah, Nick Jones did it on I think he probably did it about the earliest. He was playing it in 1972. My favourite version of this one is quite interesting. It's a Hungarian-born singer. I'm sorry, I'm going to mangle her name pronunciation. It's Fruzina Rakosi, I think. She's a singer, plays concertina recorder and the bagpipes. She made this brilliant album of horse-themed trad songs called Frontrunner in 2020. Unfortunately, she doesn't seem to have much presence online. I didn't manage to contact her or anything. to ask her about it. But she's just made this one album of brilliant horse-themed folk songs. It's available on Bandcamp. Highly recommended. Everybody should go and buy it. Maybe she'll make another one based on either horses or another animal. But it's really good. It's a lovely version.
Well, you've one of your little footnotes on this one, so you come up with a new subgenre called the klepto ballad. And maybe we should do an album of klepto ballads.
Klepto ballads, yeah, absolutely, yeah. There's loads of them at this period. Obviously, Child loved the Scottish ballads. He had a lot of sources for his Scottish ballads, so that's why Child's ballads are very Scottish heavy. And obviously, there's a lot of border reaving going on and stealing from people. So yeah, loads of klepto ballads in the
lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. And then we come to an anomaly that will not. It won't. I say anomaly as if it's a one-off. I have mapped out the first 200 songs of the podcast, the first 20 seasons, the first 20 books, as it happens for you. And this, in the first 200 songs, this is the first of maybe 4 or 5 instances of there being no song labelled with Roud 86. No song for the next Roud number.
No, it left me with an intriguing problem.
and it will with me when it comes to season 9. But we've asked Steve about this, and his initial answer was, "Why are you asking me? This was 50 years ago." But
fair enough.
But what he reckons is that he gave, there obviously was a song labelled Roud 86 at one point, and
was there?
Well,
that's not what he told me.
Well, he did say to me, he said there probably was one, and then at some point later, he was indexing another song, which he gave the next Roud number, but something happened which made him decide that the song he'd labelled as 86 was actually the same song or close to it of the new one he was doing. Therefore, he took all of the 86 songs and made them the other one, which leaves 86 blank. But he couldn't give any other song 86 because in the interim time, someone might have published a book with the other song in it and labelled it as 86. And consequently, he now can't give any other song number 86.
I think that has happened at other points in the index. What he told me was, I had a brief exchange with him about it, and when that happens, when he has to move a song from another number, he does have a record of it. Now, that could have happened and he doesn't have a record of it, but he said what he suspects happened was that he just missed out a number. I mean, I think at this stage, I think he was still on the index cards, and I think maybe got stuck together or something.
Yeah, exactly.
What he told me was that maybe it was just a counting error.
Yeah, well, it also was 50 years ago.
Exactly.
But we know, looking ahead, 86 is blank, and we also know that 159 is blank.
Okay.
I couldn't tell whether there was this other entry thing. And then, am I looking at the wrong bit? Oh no, and then number 177 is blank.
Yes.
192 is blank, but it says C 104. And 104 is bold Henry Martin, young Henry Martin.
Right.
And obviously, when he was indexing Roud 192, he, partway through indexing it, he decided that actually they should all be Henry Martin. And therefore they're there. And 194 is blank as well. So there's two blank pages in book 20 when you get to 20. Yeah. And now we'll have two blank episodes, or not blank. We'll sort something out, but you know.
Yeah. No, there's always something to write about. I mean, for this one, I just.
So yeah, in lieu of there being no song for 86, what have you done?
Well, because this isn't really a book aimed at the kind of hardcore folk academic community. It's aimed at people coming from maybe other genres, or maybe people just starting out with folk music. I mean, initially it was designed as sort of traditional music for beginners. I've been writing about these songs, and initially I would drop names like Francis Child in the description of the song, and then maybe put a sentence about the American-based folk song collector, and I just got a bit bored of writing that really. Every time I mentioned Francis Child, so I thought it might be useful to have a very short history of folk song and folk song collecting, just to give people a bit of a primer for people who are coming at it fresh, not knowing that much about it, but also maybe not quite ready to read Steve's 1,000-page book, Folk Song in England.
I mean, everyone should read.
They should, and I'm sure they'll get to it eventually.
Because it is absolutely fantastic. I read it myself last year, and it's an extraordinary book. It's
essential, but quite an investment, and like I say, you've got to warm people into these things. So hopefully it'll be. It's just so I basically condensed Steve's book down into 2 A5 pages.
Well, blimey.
How successfully I did that, you can be the judge.
No, but I've read it. I've read it. I read through it on the PDF he sent over, and it's a fairly comprehensive sort of synopsis of folk song collecting over the last couple hundred years.
Very much an executive summary. There's loads of stuff that I wanted to put in, but I've just tried to get in
a summary, a précis,
very brief précis, which is very difficult to do for 600 years or whatever of history. But I managed to. So I did that. I thought hopefully it'll be helpful to some people. I do get messages from people who haven't done a lot of folk music before and are just getting into folk music and saying, "Oh, this is a great way to get started. Thanks for doing this." So hopefully for those kind of people, it will have some value. So I thought that's what I put there.
No, that's good.
Next gap I get to, I'll think of something else.
Yeah, and we've done that on the podcast slightly, occasionally, but it's not quite as obvious because there was an episode somewhere where Vic Gammon, as part of it, did explain about the child ballads and something. So we have occasionally done explanations on certain sections of this, but they're usually in the middle of an episode about a song, and it's quite difficult to pin down where that is. In fact, I've forgotten as well. And so, it's good to have this in one sort of dedicated place.
Yeah,
very
indeed.
good. And then we've got, so that's only 9 songs in this issue, in this edition of Sing Yonder. Brings us on to number 87, called Whaley Whaley, amongst other titles.
Yes, this one, again, this is a bit of a break from the Border Reaver stuff, although it does seem to have been originally Scottish. Although, I mean, we talk a lot in folk music in traditional song, about these songs quite often start out as very complex narrative ballads, and then due to performance and fashion and people's attention spans and people forgetting verses, they gradually sort of get worn down over time and get shorter and simpler as they go on. This unusually seems to have gone in the opposite direction, because it seems like, from all the evidence we have, that Whaley Whaley started out as a very simple love song with no historical figures in it or anything like that, just a very simple love song. That seems to be the earliest version that we know of. And then later, it was then that simple love song verses of that were taken and applied to the story of Lady Barbara Erskine, who was rejected by her husband James II because he basically falsely accused her of infidelity based on one of his friends saying something. It turned out apparently it wasn't true, but so that was a historical thing that actually happened. So I think in this case it was like a historical ballad writer used an old simple love song to make a new historical ballad, but it was super popular in not so much in the historical form. That seemed to fizzle out quite quickly. The Lady Barbara Erskine one, it was possibly popular at the time when the things were going on. You had these things where ballads were brought out to kind of tell the news in a kind of tabloid way. But the simple version just travelled all over the world. I mean, very popular in Ireland, America. Became very popular on the sort of US singer-songwriter circuit. James Taylor did it. One of my favourite versions is an American version by Buffy Sainte Marie.
Yes.
Who is fantastic. Still going, still fighting the good fight, actively campaigning for social and environmental justice in America now, aged 80-something, I think she is. But she did an amazing version of this, accompanying herself on the mouth bow, which is an interesting instrument. Have you come across a mouth
I have
bow
not
before?
come across.
Anyone brought those to a session?
No, not that I'm aware anyway.
No, as far as I can tell, it's like some sort of cross between like a jaw harp and a violin or something. It's you basically a thing you play with a bow, but you put it in your mouth, and you can like do that expression stuff you do with the jaw harp to make different.
Oh, I see.
Sounds. Yeah, pretty amazing. Listen, well worth listening. Yeah, Buffy St. Marie's.
Nice. So I was not familiar with this song as Waily Waily. I mean, I heard the name Waily Waily, but I didn't really know the song until I realised that it's also the song "The Water Is Wide."
Yes,
basically, and I'm well aware of that one. I'm familiar with that one from people singing it.
Yeah,
and crucially for me, with my other interest outside of folk music with films, it's sung by Barry Dransfield in the 90s film adaptation of Mutiny on the Bounty. The Bounty with Mel Gibson and Anthony Hopkins, and down the cast people like Liam Neeson there as well. But Barry Dransfield was hired to play the role of the ship's fiddler, the blind ship fiddler, on the Bounty. And so there's scenes of him playing the fiddle while the ship's crew are all having like an hour of dancing to get exercise, and there's a bit later on where everyone's feeling a bit sad because something in the plot, and Barry Dransfield and on his fiddle sings and plays "The Water Is Wide," and it's one of my favourite recordings on the soundtrack.
Fantastic, yeah.
So that's how I was familiar with this song anyway.
Well, it's a huge crossover hit. I mean, even classical music, Benjamin Britten recorded, did an arrangement for orchestra.
Yeah.
But Martin Simpson very recently did a lovely one. That's well worth a listen.
Amazing.
But it's one of the few ones we have in this book that has source singer versions that you can find with some effort. I found a version recorded by Helen Hartnett Flanders in 1945. She's a great American collector.
Oh yeah. Yes, Nora Rhodes, who came on the Patreon to talk about the American singer Emma Dusenberry.
Right. Yes.
Nora her main focus is on the life and works of American female singers and American female collectors.
Yeah.
And she did a whole thing for me on Emma Dusenberry, and she is going to come back at some point in the future and do a collector spotlight episode on Helen Harkness Flanders.
Yeah, she's fantastic. I look forward to that. So she's a great collector. Apparently, she was really good at convincing people who didn't particularly want to sing. She was like very charming, apparently, and would get these old farmers and stuff singing. So she got some really valuable stuff. But she collected this one from a woman called Edith Ballinger Price in Newport, Rhode Island, in 1945. And Ballinger Price was actually a writer. She wrote children's books, but she was interested in folk song. And it's a lovely recording. Actually, it's recorded on. It's a cassette. That's been digitised. You can find it on archive.org. Like I say, with some effort, it's one of those ones that's quite difficult to pinpoint the actual location in a long recording. But I actually put it in my Substack, so you can hear it if you don't want to scroll through.
There you go.
You can find it on there. And also Almeida Riddle. Does she count as a source singer? I think so.
Almeida Riddle counts as source. I think.
Yeah. She did Water Is Wide as well. That's a lovely version. Yeah.
I love Almeida Riddle's singing. Fantastic.
Oh yeah, brilliant. Some great footage of her actually on YouTube as well.
There is. Yeah. It's amazing. I'm just looking at how long we've been talking for. We've got 3 more songs.
Okay.
We've got Round 88, Lord Delamere or Delamere.
Yeah. This is a really great one. This is probably one of my favourites in the book to write about. It's about the always exciting topic of taxation.
Hey! Just like Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Well,
taxation of Trade Federation routes.
There we are. Yes, well, there you go. Sort of definite parallel, yeah. But it's, again, 17th century. They just had the English Civil War. Money was tight in the state, so the powers that be decided the best way to recoup that money was to tax poor people a lot more.
Of course, well, that's a sensible solution.
Yes. Now, there were some of the parliamentarians of the time did actually stand up to the king and speak out about that. One of which was a guy called Henry Booth, who was Lord Delamere.
Right.
And he said rather dramatically that all of the poor should be killed rather than have them starve to death if they put this law through to tax the poor more.
What a Scrooge! What a Scrooge!
Yeah. But so yeah, and the ballad is basically this confrontation with the king, followed by a rather complicated, overcomplicated, you might say, duel situation, where there's various sort of trickery going on and people changing place with others, and I won't go into the full story; it's too long. But yes, the duel didn't happen. There was Henry Booth was a real character who did stand up for the poor, but the duel didn't happen. There doesn't seem to be anything.
Okay.
There's something vaguely similar in history, but nothing. I think it's a bit of overexcited balladeer making some. But yeah, again, super rare. Hadn't been recorded at all. No source singers, no tunes recorded for it at any point in history. So it hasn't been picked up at all until a couple of years ago, when at the same time, roughly it seems, Helen Lindley found it, and she did her version.
Helen will be on the podcast for that episode.
Yes, I'm sure she will. But also, at the same time, really great version by a band called Jack Dean and Company, fronted by Jack Dean, who comes from a hip-hop background. And I was chatting to him about this. And he kind of found a certain sort of similarity between traditional music and hip-hop in the terms of recycling old material, resampling, reiterating things, that kind of borrowing and reiteration and remixing process that kind of trad song goes through. So he recorded actually a really faithful version of this song. It's got all of the elements of the story in, but it's just in a kind of I'll read out how he described his band's sound. Apparently it's a magpie's nest of folk, indie, hip-hop, post-rock and Midwest emo.
All right.
Check that out. It's not like you've heard any folk song done before, but it's really good. So there's those two versions. There's one satirical remake, which is rewrite, I would say, in a kind of Bob Dylan-esque style by a singer-songwriter called Paul Rippey. And that's about it, really, for that
one.
In terms of recordings. But yeah, bring it back. Let's have more. It's quite sort of relevant to our times, should we say.
Indeed.
So hopefully we'll enjoy a new revival.
We'll be covering it in just under 2 years' time on the podcast, so
by then there could be hundreds of versions.
There could.
Yeah.
And moving on, then we've got two more well-known songs, really, to break the monotony of no one's heard of this before.
Yeah.
Lord Allenwater, Route 89. Lord Allenwater.
Or Lord Derwentwater. Lord Allenwater seems to have been a mistranscribed title.
Or Lord Ellenwater, isn't it, sometimes?
Yeah. Again, seems to be a true story. There was it's basically the story of somebody who gets a letter from the king saying, I need to talk to you about something, and then this chap comes down from Derwentwater, where he was living, and on the way has various portents of doom, saying, I'm sure this can't be good news, I've been called to see the king. Anyway, this is the story of James Radcliffe, the third Earl of Derwentwater, who was involved in the Jacobite uprising of 1715, and which was the plan was to depose King George, who was very unpopular, and replace him with James VII of Scotland. The uprising failed anyway, and Radcliffe was executed the next year, 1716, had his head chopped off. So the ballad tells that whole story of him going down to London, having his head chopped off. There's a kind of a gruesome coda where his head, at the end, his head says, "It wasn't me." His disembodied head speaking from the executor's block. Wow. That's an interesting gruesome coda. But yeah, it was a pretty popular ballad in Scotland. Radcliffe was a popular figure, he was well liked. He did stand up for sort of poor people and stuff, and was trying to do the right thing.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, it's quite popular in Scotland. And then, as I say, it became quite popular in the revival of Shirley and Dolly Collins.
Yeah,
it's a great version with the old harmonic flute accompaniment.
Oh, the portative organ. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Lovely stuff. And Jim Moray did it on the Outlander as well.
He did it twice, yeah. I think he did it on this... what's his later one where he redid some of his songs? I can't remember what his album's called.
Oh, I don't know.
But begins with B. Anyway, yes, Jim Moray recorded it, yeah. Dr. Faustus.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Very good. So yeah,
and the Askew sisters did a version on a quite difficult to find album, but it's still available for sale, called the Axford Five, where they recorded songs collected in Axford in Hampshire by 5 women singers.
that's right. I've got the CD on my shelf.
Yes, it's a cracker. Yeah, so it's on there as well.
Yeah, we mentioned that on the Lovely Joan episode on the Patreon with George Sansom. There's a great, and deliberately different Lovely Joan on that Axford 5 album.
Yeah, very interesting.
Lovely.
Stuff.
And then finally we come to Georgie, or Geordie, depending on what you want to sing.
Yes,
this is, I think, thanks to Martin Carthy, this is very well known.
Indeed, yes. Another ballad of a woman pleading clemency for her lover, harking back to Round 84.
Indeed, yes.
Huey Graham. But yes, I mean, there's a lot of debate about whether this is based on a historical figure. I'm slightly sceptical, but a lot of people do a lot of work trying to attach it to George Gordon, Earl of Huntly, who apparently betrayed Queen Mary and was outlawed. But he wasn't actually executed, but he had a seizure when he was captured. But none of the other events seem to match up. It's a pretty tenuous one. I'd give it a 3 out of 10 in historical accuracy, personally.
Right.
But yeah, as you say, super popular. There's some of those really early, scratchy Percy Grainger recordings available that you can, of the early 20th century stuff. Recorded on wax cylinders, so really difficult to listen to, but definitely there. And then Bert Lloyd did it, so then loads of people had a go at it, and then now it's super popular. It did. I read a fantastic article. Again, I linked it in my Substack by a guy called Richard Elliott, who does just a general music Substack, but he wrote a really long piece about Geordie, the song, and its sort of cultural impact. It's absolutely fascinating. I recommend it to anybody to read. But he because when I was going through the different recorded versions, there's loads of Italian versions. I thought, what's going on here then?
Oh, okay.
But he went into the history of that, and there's a guy called Fabrizio De André, who was an Italian sort of singer-songwriter, crooner guy, and he learnt it from his English teacher. It was a woman called Maureen Ricks, and she had an interest in folk ballads, and she taught it to him. Then he translated it into Italian, and he released it as a single with Maureen, and it became a huge hit in Italy. So you can hear in it a fully Italian version of Geordie. But because of its popularity, it was then picked up by other Italian musicians. It became one of these things that everybody covered. Up to 2002, there's a guy called Gabri Ponti, who I don't know who many of your listeners will know who that is, but he was in a dance music band called Eiffel 65 in the early 2000s.
Wow, I remember. Yeah,
do you remember him? Yeah.
I did have. So there was the first single they had over here was called Blue, which is a major hit.
Yes, that's the one.
In fact, folk music is not folk music at all, but it's got a lot. It's I'm blue, dabba dee dabba die.
Exactly,
so it's got like foldy roll stuff in it.
Exactly.
But I've got on my shelves. I've got a handful of CD singles from like 1999, 2000, 2001, and what I do have on CD is the second hit single by Eiffel 65 called "Move Your Body."
Okay,
I've still got it.
There we are.
So Eiffel 65, wow.
Well, yes, that Gabri Ponti was the DJ and producer. No, you probably weren't expecting to hear about them on this podcast.
Oh, well, I don't think I was ever expecting to mention Eiffel 65 on a podcast about folks that was going through the Roud Index.
Well, there you go. Well, if you go onto YouTube and search Gabri Ponti Geordie, you will find an Italian version of Geordie in a techno EDM style, and it has one of these amazing early 2000s early CGI computer animated videos. It's like this crazy yellow fever dream thing,
did the music videos for Blue and Move Your Body from Eiffel 65.
Very much in the same style as Blue. Yeah, very much in the same style, but it's in very much a yellow theme, this one.
Okay, rather than Blue.
Yeah, but go and check it out. It's absolutely the tune, the Charles Coker melody is the tune that everybody knows for Geordie, but in a techno style. And then, because that was a massive hit, there's loads of Italian dance music. There's drum and bass, there's hard house, there's every kind of, all very recognisably Geordie.
Wow,
So,
okay.
I mean, go go and have a deep dive into that, if you if you will. But also loads of other. It's quite popular in France. There's a French language version. There's quite an interesting heavy rock version with the obligatory face melting guitar solo, if you like that kind of thing.
Of course.
It's a real smorgasbord of versions on this one. You can
Lovely.
Really,
well, I didn't expect that to end with Eiffel 65, but there you go. It's a nice surprise.
Full of surprises, I am.
Lovely. And there we go. That's all the songs that are coming up in Volume 9.
Indeed.
And consequently, Season 9 of this podcast, which will be in the spring, or early spring, sort of February to end of April sort of thing of 2027. Plenty of songs to cover before then. Which people can read all about if they want to buy books 4 to 7 and 8, I suppose.
And 8. Get a head start on the podcast. Read the books.
I have to do that as well sometimes.
But they are available for free on my website as well if you want to just download a PDF. But the physical books, if you can buy a physical book, it does help with the keeping the project going.
Indeed so. Yeah, physical books available, downloads, and Sing Yonder 1 and 2 on CD as well.
Lovely stuff.
Featuring lots of excellent people.
Including you, Matt.
I wasn't going to say that, but yes, including me. That's really nice for you to say.
Yeah.
Lovely stuff. Well, we'll leave things there, and I'd better get back to sorting out Season 4, which starts next Wednesday.
And I've got to keep going on Book 10.
Oh, Book 10. Yeah, I know. There's some
double figures. Finally,
double figures. Book 10. I've got Season 10 mapped out. What's on Season 10? Oh, you've got 10 more child ballads.
I'm afraid so. Yeah, but some nice ones. Clyde Waters is the first one, which has got some of it. It's quite popular. Yeah, not too obscure.
The rest, however.
There are some obscure ones, but another mixture of obscure and not obscure. But yeah,
absolutely should be great stuff. And and we'll finish this just by me teasing what's coming up. Season 4, I won't tell you all the songs, but I'll tell you next week is episode 1, and we've got it's the song labelled Round 31, and it's The Trees They Do Grow High, or Longer Growing, song 1 from volume 3 of the book. And on the history side, welcome return to Sandra Kerr, who was on for the Fair Flower of Northumberland episode in the last season. Sandra's back to the history of Trees That Do Grow High, and on the singer half, we have the excellent singer and guitarist Chris Foster, who will be on a Zoom call with me all the way from Iceland, where he lives. So that's what's coming up next week on Season 4, Episode 1 of In the Round. But and until we speak again on about anything else, Karl Sinfield, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matt. See you soon.
And there we go, a fascinating look ahead, almost 2 years ahead for us on the podcast. As I said, those songs will be covered in Season 9, which will go out in the first third of the year 2027. If I'm still doing the podcast by then, and if you're all still listening, we'll see how we go. Anyway, that's it for today. As I said, next week is the start of Season 4 proper. We will be looking at Round 31, which is the song The Trees They Do Grow High. My history guest will be Sandra Kerr, and my singer guest will be Chris Foster. Until then, stay safe, be well, and I'll see you next week for the start of Season 4 of In the Round.